Chapter 22. A Choice of Loyalties. The roar echoed again. Vines, branches, and leaves trembled around Derek. Flocks of strange, brightly striped birds took off in unison from the canopies of trees that resembled giant rattan plants. About 30 meters ahead, the thick trunk of one of them bent, pushed by something massive. Derek swallowed. Whatever it was, it treated the dense underbrush like nothing more than blades of grass. Cries of fear erupted among the refugees as they scrambled to huddle behind Isabel. She stepped forward, her expression hardening with focus. In one smooth motion, she drew her sword. Thin arcs of electricity danced along the blade, crackling with barely restrained energy. Tunga frowned and exhaled sharply. No time to wonder what was running through that maniac's head. Derek could only hope that Tunga would be on their side and wouldn't start hurling fireballs at him again. He focused on the mini-map, where a large red blip was closing in fast. Any second now, it would emerge from the bushes ahead. Derek took the last few seconds to study the trees around him. The tangle of low bushes and vines was so dense that they would never be able to escape quickly. That thing, on the other hand, could easily force its way through, pushing aside entire trees as effortlessly as he would brush away a bush. No, whatever was coming, they'd have to face it head-on and hope it wasn't some over-leveled monster. "Vanda, how many micro-missiles do we have left?" "2 volleys remaining," she replied quickly. Derek steadied his feet on the uneven ground. If he decided to use them, he'd have to fire while the creature was still at a safe distance. Otherwise, the blast radius would hit the refugees too. The bushes ahead rustled, and a massive boar's head emerged, far larger than any Derek had ever seen. Its legs alone stood as tall as he was, and its tusks and claws were sharp enough to rival those of a predator. A chorus of terrified screams erupted from the group behind him. Derek turned just in time to see Alira standing frozen among the refugees, her eyes locked on the beast with a vacant expression, as if in a trance. Isabel raised her sword, pointing it at the creature. Arcs of electricity danced up and down the blade, growing every second in number and speed. Derek readied the missile launcher. A rectangular reticle immediately locked onto the massive beast, and the words, "Target locked," appeared beside it. A firm hand grabbed his armored shoulder. Nova's sensory system relayed the heat of his hand, a near-scorching warmth. He spun around to find Tunga beside him, shaking his head slowly. His expression was serious and unreadable. "What now, you savage?" Derek opened his mouth to demand an explanation, but Tunga let go and strode forward, ignoring him and heading straight for the approaching beast as if it were nothing. Isabel watched him advance with narrow eyes, her sword ready crackling with electric energy. "Derek," Vanda called. He clenched his jaw. "What is it, Vanda?" "I'm a little busy right now. Have you noticed that the big guy up front has no level or health bar, and that there's someone riding it?" Derek shifted his gaze away from the creature's menacing snout for the first time, and noticed the guy sitting on top of it. The rider, a man with gray-painted skin resembling Tunga's tribal markings, sat astride the colossal boar. His piercing gaze locked onto Tunga, deliberately ignoring everyone else. A stern frown was etched onto his face. "And what's that supposed to mean?" Derek asked. "I thought beasts contaminated by the sphere's power went insane, but this one is just standing there, docile, with a guy on its back. How is that possible?" "I have no idea, Derek. Maybe you could ask the guy sitting on its back, unless you'd rather just fire the volley of micro-missiles you're still aiming at him." He rolled his eyes and retracted the missile launcher. It no longer felt like the right moment for that weapon. Tunga stopped a few steps away from the massive beast, and the mysterious rider never took his eyes off him. Neither of them showed any sign of doing anything more than glaring at each other. Isabel glanced at Derek, her brow raised. Derek gave a clueless shrug. "Vanda, Any readings on our guests? Yes, Derek. Both the animal and the rider are emitting substantial energy levels, higher than anything we've encountered so far. Derek's throat went dry. Great. Just great. At least they weren't here for him. With a bit of luck, they'd end up fighting each other without dragging them into it. He turned toward Elira, who had meanwhile gathered with the other refugees several meters back, taking cover behind some rocks. Tunga and Kata, the man said, his deep voice booming in the now silent jungle. Tunga's reply was low and gravelly. Kato Ngoma. He nodded once. Why you here? The raider stiffened and asked something in a harsh, guttural language that Nova's translator failed to decode. Tunga raised a hand toward Derek and Isabel. I not travel alone now. My travel companions must understand what happened. Speak in common tongue. You been around? You know it well enough. Cato's frown deepened. Very well then. I come to take you back to tribe. Now follow me, he said, jerking his thumb behind him. No, Tunga said sharply, planting his staff into the ground with a dull thud. Cato stopped mid-step. What you mean, no? I not return. I have mission from Spirit of Beast. Cato shook his head. You still talk to that giant creature? Thought I told you long ago to stop letting it crawl into your skull. Tunga snorted. The beast show me fate of world. Its great wisdom save us many times. But you happy with life far from your people? Cato frowned. What I do with my life is not your business. Cato's gaze finally shifted to Derek and Isabel before returning to Tunga. Who are they? Tunga raised his chin. Beast send me to find Shaitani. He pointed toward Derek. He rolled his eyes. Here we go again with this nonsense. If this turned into another mess because of Tunga, there was no way he would let it slide. Kato raised an eyebrow. And which one of them is Shaitani? Tunga shifted uncomfortably and cleared his throat. Man in metal shell. He is Shaitani. Cato smirked, pointing at Derek. That is Shaitani. I think he low-level golem, summoned by Warden to serve her. Tunga swallowed. He not golem. Man inside that armor. You, Cato barked, pointing a finger at Derek. Take off helmet. Show face. This guy clearly wasn't used to hearing the word no. Annoying. Even more annoying than Tunga, if such a thing was possible. Derek crossed his arms. Maybe if you ask nicely. Who knows? I might just humor you. Isabel glared at him, while Tunga's lips twitched into something halfway between a smile and a snarl. Cato puffed out his chest and clenched his jaw. I say, show your face. Derek, Vonda whispered. Provoking him is not a good idea. Vonda, he answered through gritted teeth. Do you still think I actually think before I speak to people? The boar snorted out a thick cloud of smoke from its massive nostrils. Its small eyes began to flicker with a menacing red light. Derek, Vanda started. Don't say it, Vanda. Our new friend is getting ready to kick our ass. Not our ass, just yours. Damn, he hated this world. But at least if it was only after him, he could always try to just run. Tunga raised his staff and planted himself in front of the beast's snout. Enough, Cato. I'm not here to fight Shaitani, and I not let you do it either. Cato stared at Derek in stunned silence, then turned to Tunga, his finger pointed at Derek. You're abandoning your tribe for this? Tunga held his ground for a moment before answering. Spirit of Beast send me to find him. I not yet know real reason, but I follow path until I learn. It's important. Cato snarled. More important than tribe? Tunga nodded. More important than all tribe. Beast show me visions. Big ruin come to world if I no do my part in story. Cato shook his head, a smirk curling his lips, I said something the translator didn't catch. Fool talk. You still let Big Ape on Mountain tell you what to do? Why you even listen to that thing? Tunga's eyes narrowed. Not just ape. It's an ape that hold power of a celestial sphere. Besides, if I'm madman, why not let me walk path I choose? Because you last shaman our tribe got, Kato grunted. Mad or not, tribes still need you. Now come. Quiet. He turned the boar around without waiting for a reply. No! Tunga barked, striding purposefully away until he stood beside Isabel and Derek once more. He drove his staff into the ground with a firm gesture. Kato froze, staring at Tunga with his mouth agape. You even crazier than I think, he said, his voice rising. You really think I not take you back to tribe by force if I must? The boar snorted, flames flickering from its nostrils. Derek tensed. He had no idea what Kato's level was, but even without that monster of a boar, the man didn't seem like someone he could easily handle. Silently, he redirected the energy to the weapon systems and reinforced the armor. He had no idea what difference it would make, but thanks to the crazy savage, he was about to find out soon enough. Isabel turned to Tunga, her expression stern. What do you intend to do? Your tribe and your duties are calling to you, she said, nodding toward Kato. Do you truly mean to turn your back on your people? Tunga glanced at her, frowned, then watched Derek. He clapped him on the shoulder. Tunga, I can't believe this. So the beast you talked to is actually a giant ape? Must be way bigger than the one I killed back in the jungle. A colossal monkey that swallowed a celestial-level sphere? And now you talk to it. With your mind? That's insane. And here, I thought it was just some imaginary friend, like Orbisar. Tunga sighed, then fixed his gaze on Kato, waiting silently. Kato shook his head, his mouth twisting into a grimace. He slid off the boar's back in one smooth motion, landing softly on the jungle floor. He strode toward them with deliberate steps, his muscles gleaming in the humid air. The massive beast behind him snorted again, pawing at the ground, but staying put. Even without riding it, that enormous creature seemed completely under Kato's control. The refugees stirred nervously. A woman muttered a brief prayer to Orbisar. Derek turned to look at Alira again. She stood close to the others, but her gaze was lost in another world. Thomas was beside her, yet he didn't spare her a glance. He could have at least held her hand, instead of keeping his own clasped together in that stupid gesture of prayer. His eyes were only for his precious warden, and his hands only for his precious god. Stopping a few steps away from Tunga, Kato gestured with one hand. Come with me now. His stance was relaxed, as if he didn't consider any of them a threat. Derek shifted uncomfortably. He didn't particularly care about Tunga's decision, but the idea that someone couldn't choose their own path twisted his gut. Who did Kato think he was? Isabel glared at Tunga, clearly disinclined to help him. Kato reached out toward Tunga, but the black, gleaming metal hand of the Nova armor clamped onto his wrist like a vice, stopping him mid-motion. Derek boosted the actuators, their hum sharpening under the strain. The display read 7,000 newtons, enough to shatter any human arm. He wasn't trying to provoke Kato, but looking weak would have been even worse. Tunga and Isabel gawked at Derek with wide eyes. Kato stared at him. What do you think you're doing, Shaitani? He spat out the word like it was something foul that had accidentally entered his mouth. Derek loosened his grip. Wait, just a second. Kato gritted his teeth. We talk enough. I've got one last question, Derek said. What do you want to know? Kato growled, his teeth clenched. A small bead of sweat rolled down his temple, just beside a pulsing vein. Derek released his arm completely and took a step back. What happens if Tunga doesn't return to his tribe? I mean, really? Kato's gaze flicked toward Tunga. Tell him. The shaman cleared his throat. My tribe is small. I only one with sphere power. If beast attack them... He paused, his gaze darkening. But follow Shaitani more important. Maybe fate of whole world depend on it. Isabel frowned at Tunga. You must think of your people. The spirit of the beast you worship so much is nothing but an abomination that should be slain. Tunga tightened his grip on his staff until his knuckles turned white. What you know of spirit of beast? You not know its wisdom, yet you want to kill it only because you fear it. It's the only thing stopping you and your church from invading jungle and taking our villages. Isabel stiffened, opening her mouth to retort, but Derek raised a hand to stop her. Please, Derek said with a sigh. As much as I love watching religious debates where everyone is absolutely certain they're right, but no one is capable of actual reasoning, this isn't what we're here for. He placed an armored hand on Tunga's shoulder. We're here to figure out whether he can decide his own fate, or if he's stuck following orders from a guy who just popped out of the bushes on a fire-breathing boar. Just another day in my life at this point. Derek, Vonda said, her tone tense. What are you planning? We don't know what Cato is capable of. Relax, Derek muttered. If aura levels could only be gauged in an actual fight, then Cato had no way of knowing his strength either. He could only hope that Tunga's nonsense about the Shaitani had planted at least a sliver of doubt that he might be stronger than he seemed. Cato puffed out his chest and glared at Derek. How dare you speak to me that way? I am the first warrior of the Nakori. Tunga snorted. You are first warrior only because you choose to live away from tribe, hunting bigger prey to grow stronger. You are first warrior of no one. Cato was about to reply when Nova unlocked and opened with a hiss. Derek stepped out into the sticky jungle heat. The jungle floor was soft beneath his shoes. Out of the armor, he was a full head shorter than Cato, and nowhere near as physically imposing. Still, he walked up to the warrior without hesitation. Nice to meet you, Cato, Derek said, extending a hand. I'm Derek Steele. Cato stared at the outstretched hand, then back at Derek's face. What is this? Derek shrugged, pulling his hand back. It's just something we do where I'm from. We shake hands when we meet someone new. The corners of Cato's mouth turned downward. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to take Tunga back to tribe. I waste enough time already. On that point, Derek could only agree. He scratched his chin. Yeah, about that. Who sent you? Cato frowned. What do you mean? Well, you're the first warrior, right? You've got to have more important things to do than chase after some guy. Derek gestured toward Tunga with his thumb. If you've come all this way, someone must have incentivized you. Cato shifted uncomfortably. As I see it, Derek continued, there are two possibilities. He held up 2 fingers in front of Cato's face. Either you were ordered by someone higher up, he lowered 1 finger, or you're being paid to do it. Cato frowned. Paid? Yeah, Derek said with a half smile, like a reward for bringing him back. Cato cleared his throat. The tribe has made a substantial offer for his return, but that doesn't mean... What? Tunga interrupted. What are they giving you for me? Cato avoided his gaze. Tunga stepped closer. What are they giving you? A rock sphere, Cato mumbled. With its power, I make skin stronger, he added, massaging the wrist Derek had crushed earlier. Tunga reached into a pouch at his waist and pulled out a small metallic object that emitted a faint orange glow. Cato's eyes widened. Tunga tossed the sphere, and Cato caught it instinctively, staring at it in disbelief. A rock sphere? How do you have this? I have others too. Many more spheres falling than before, and spirit of beast guide me to them. Something change up there, Tunga said, glancing skyward. And demon named Derek part of that change. Yes, Isabel said, and sheathed her sword. Something is changing. This is Orbisar's will. Derek had no idea what they were talking about, but he was pleased with how the conversation had turned. The fact that Tunga had a stockpile of spheres was definitely worth noting for the future. Maybe one of them could accidentally end up in his pockets one of these days. You never know. Cato lowered his gaze. Very well, he said, turning the sphere over in his hand. I'll tell them I didn't find you. But know this. Your absence will hurt them. Tunga gave a faint smile. Thank you for your concern, Kato Ngoma. I return to them soon. I trust that now I'm not there. You stay home more. Make sure nothing bad happen. Cato hesitated, then nodded and walked back to his massive boar. He climbed up in a single athletic motion, then looked down at Tunga with a grave expression. Tunga, I not know what you think you accomplish with these people, but it not end well. Tunga stared back silently, not a flinch of hesitation on his face. Cato sighed and looked at Derek and Isabel. Derek gave an exaggerated wave, making a show of it, and Isabel offered a polite bow. Cato shook his head, turned his mount, and slowly disappeared into the jungle, massive trees shaking in his wake. The refugees began murmuring among themselves, their voices growing louder and more relaxed. Derek climbed back into the cold embrace of Nova and let out a sigh of relief. He stared after Cato's retreating figure. Stepping out of Nova and confronting him directly had been a reckless bluff, but it had worked. Still, Cato could have crushed him like a bug. Hell, in this cursed jungle, even a bug could crush him like a bug. A small hand slipped into Derek's armored glove. Nova's system transmitted the warmth of the hand to his brain, making it feel as if it were truly in his own. Startled, he glanced down to find Alira's tiny fingers clutching his. The girl stared silently at the spot where Cato had vanished, her face expressionless. He's gone, Derek said softly. You don't need to worry. Alira nodded. Derek shifted awkwardly. He wasn't great with kids. You hungry? There should be some rations left. And, hey, this jungle's full of fruit. If you want. She squeezed his hand tightly, and 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. 2 solitary tears. No crying, no sobs. Derek froze, staring at her, his mouth opening, but no words came out. What could he possibly say?